Good evening and welcome. I'm Sheila Balgobin and I am the Dream Decipherer, and I help you to crack the code of your sleep and dreams so you can sleep sound and dream deep. This evening, I have three dreams, and they feature Robert De Niro lookalikes and the desert and drive-in movies. So let's get into it and see what's going on here. In the first dream, the dreamer reports that the CEO of the company he worked for, who reminds him of Robert De Niro, came to his office unexpectedly to carry out an audit and apparently made a big fuss about it because suspected that the dreamer hadn't actually done the work, but or hadn't done the work properly, but found that it had been done properly after all. And that's the first dream. The second dream, the dreamer reports that he's somewhere in an area that looks like the Arizona desert, or it could have been the Arizona desert. And he had to order two sets of parts, it seems, or for his car, um, including refueling the car and draining the fuel and replacing the fuel with hydrogen cylinders like they use in Fast and Furious movies, and lots of body work, so modification of the vehicle into, I guess, a hot rod of some kind. So that's the second dream. The third dream, the dreamer is still in the desert, apparently, maybe still waiting for the car to be fixed, who knows? But a martial arts companion made arrangements for a group of people, and the dreamer says us, but I don't know if he's talking about this fellow martial artist and himself or a group of people. It's not clear. But in any case, this person made arrangements to be able to watch movies from sitting in their cars, like at a drive-in. Drive-in movies. I don't know if they so on a big screen, particularly American. I don't know if they have things like that here or didn't used to have things like that here in Europe. But the interesting thing about all of this is that they had this made arrangements for this outdoor cinema or drive-in movie, but this person also provided some technology which enabled the people, so presumably the dreamer and this group, to be invisible so that they could cloak their cars or camouflage their cars in some kind of way so that they wouldn't be seen. And there ends the third dream. Um, I have to admit, I had to do a little bit of research about Fast and Furious and other things, but let's see what the connection between these three dreams are. Starting with the first dream, you have a CEO, the dreamer's CEO, that looks like Robert De Niro. Now, what does that mean to the dreamer? What does Robert De Niro represent? Does he represent a gangster? Does he represent what? What exactly does that is that important in terms of this CEO? Now, again, people who appear in our dreams aren't always themselves. So, what is it, or what qualities perhaps does this CEO have other than looking like, or in addition to looking like Robert De Niro? And what does that all evoke for the dreamer? What does this CEO who looks like someone famous? What does that mean? What does that bring up for the dreamer? Now, looking at the CEO, why did he think that the dreamer had done his work improperly? What and how does the dreamer feel about that? That somebody, in essence, is saying that they're incompetent and not able to do their work properly. And is there any relationship with to waking life with this, where someone or one in a position of authority may be making the dreamer feel that they're inadequate in some way? And also, how did it feel to the dreamer when he could kind of thumb his nose and say, "Ha ha, I did the work and I did it right." I mean, what feelings were evoked at that point by that bit of the dream, that somebody basically accused them of being wrong or incompetent and not doing things properly, but as it happened, when they looked, it was actually done correctly. And how does the dreamer feel about that? So we leave that for the moment and move on to dream two. Now, I have to admit that I like this dream because Arizona is one of a favorite place of mine. When years ago driving cross country, Arizona was one of the friendliest places we went through. But the dreamer says that they're in a desert somewhere, and it seems to be the Arizona desert, which is quite specific. And I wonder what the southwestern United States, or Arizona in particular, or deserts in general mean to the dreamer. Um, Deserts can mean dryness and lifelessness, though there is life in deserts. But for the most part, it looks lifeless. It could also be something that's deserted, something that's stark or stripped bare in terms of the environment. So I wonder what the desert evokes for the dreamer. Is there some part of their life that may feel dry and desiccated like a desert? And if so, um, how does it feel to be in that desert? Is it a place you like to be, or is it a place you'd rather not be? So there's something, I think, to look at with regard to perhaps some aspect of life, whether at home or at work, where there may be a dryness. There's no juice to it. Now, there there's a refurb of a car going in, going on in the desert. And cars can mean various things, but for the dreamer, perhaps if the cars could represent his journey through life. I mean, vehicles in general seem to represent our journey through life. Sometimes we're on foot, sometimes we're flying, sometimes somebody's driving us or we're driving, and that in the context of your life, it can mean different things. But if we take that as a given, that the car represents the dreamer's journey, or the dreamer himself, perhaps. Um, what is this refurbishment going on? That's going on. What's happening? The What seems to be happening, at least to this car, is that it's being stripped down to a certain extent and being refurbished so that it's a more high-powered vehicle, which is an interesting analogy. So if the car represents in some aspect the dreamer, what's going on in their life at the moment that is being stripped away and drained away, and in being injected instead with high powered fuel, which is also quite combustible. So maybe there's a desire perhaps to move faster, to go from being cruising along to really zooming forward. There's seems to be a two step procedure here, that draining away of the old stuff and injecting this, putting on or bolting on these new cylinders, hydrogen cylinders, onto the vehicle and some body work. This is where I had to do a little bit of research because Fast and Furious movies are not quite the thing I like to watch. So I did a little bit of research and found out that they um, there's the features of these movies apparently are illegal street racing, various heists of one kind or another, and spying. So I just wonder what all of that might mean to the dreamer. This fast and furious kind of pace where people are doing all kinds of seemingly illegal stuff in fast cars. So there's something about maybe going fast and living a dangerous life, if not for the speed, but for the activities. So I just wonder if there's some aspect of the dreamer's life where moving fast may not be such a good idea, or it represents an element of excitement and danger somehow. Now, the car was fitted with the hydrogen cylinders, and hydrogen is extremely combustible. And in fact, what it reminded me of was that the Hindenburg disaster that happened in New Jersey back in the 30s, that it exploded when it was just about to land, but it was filled with hydrogen, which is, like I said, very explosive. So I just wonder what that hydrogen, those hydrogen cylinders, which give a lot of power but are explosive in nature if not handled very carefully, means for the dreamer. Is the dreamer perhaps sitting on some kind of pool of energy that's ready to explode, perhaps? Now, the uh, body work that was also done on this vehicle, and if the car again is a stand-in for some aspect of the dreamer, what is this body work doing to the dreamer? What is it to make it just look prettier? Is it to make it more aerodynamic? What is this body work that's being done? And again, having not watched Fast and Furious, I don't know what is done to cars in the movies, but I just wonder if there's something about uh, making external changes to kind of go along with the internal changes in terms of the fuel being used. Uh, as for Dream 3, now this fellow martial artist friend has made arrangements for a drive-in movie um, of sorts someplace for this session of an outdoor film being shown was for the dreamer. Apparently this fellow martial artist and maybe other unknown people. It's not very clear if they were when who the dreamer was referring to when he says us. So there's also the same person, not as only who's made these arrangements, has also developed some kind of cloaking device, for lack of a better term, to make the cars or render the cars somehow invisible, some kind of technology, stealth technology, you might say. And what came up for me about that was about hiding in plain sight. It's there, but it's not there. They paint stealth planes black so they can't be seen and picked up by radar, blah, 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 blah. But there's something about things being hidden, and what does that evoke for the dreamer? Things being hidden from view so that others can't see. I mean, I laugh when I think about that because I think about what drive-in movies were famous for. People like, making out in the back seat, sometimes the front seat, but but so and everybody knew what was going on, so they just either looked at the movie or did what they were doing. So it wasn't hidden in that sense, though it was harder to see who was who necessarily. But what my question to the dreamer here is why this necessity to be cloaked or to be hidden, and what do these this hiding of this vehicle mean to the dreamer? Or if we use the analogy that the car is a stand-in for the dreamer, what is the dreamer wanting to hide or cloak? So here we are at three dreams, which don't seem to have any apparent connection. But as always, when dreams are dreamt in close proximity to one another, there is something that ties them together. So let's see if we can find out what may possibly be tying them together. There's something about change here, in terms of at least the dreams two and three, where the car is being stripped down, where cars are being cloaked at a drive-in movie. So there's something about things being hidden, but perhaps in plain sight. They're not gone, they're not disappeared, but they're somehow disguised. So there's something about that ties all three, about the appearance of things versus the reality. And even in the first dream, you have a CEO who appears to be like Robert De Niro, but isn't. You have cars that have been transformed into something else to soup them up a bit. You have cars that are rendered invisible. So there's something about appearances. I mean, the CEO thought that the dreamer was slacking off, perhaps, or incompetent and unable to do the work properly, but turned around and said, Nah, nah, I did it, and it's right." So again, the appearance that perhaps things were not being done properly versus the reality. And so there's this discrepancy between appearance and reality. And maybe there's something there for the dreamer to look at, that how things appear in their lives and how they are in reality, whether that's for the dreamer personally or in terms of the wider connections and relationships. So there you have it. You've got the desert, De Niro lookalikes, and drive-in movies. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a fantastic evening and rest of the week, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.